Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my name is Himanshu Tyagi and I am teaching this course on heat and mass transfer. Let us look at today's lecture, which will be a continuation of the conduction heat transfer. This is the fifth lecture of this series and we are looking at the fourth part of the conduction heat transfer. Let us look a brief recap of the previous lecture. In that one, we have essentially looked at the differential element delta V, and using this particular case we have derived the one dimension heat conduction equation. So, we went into detailed length and this is the equation that we came up with, and we will continue from there and we will try and see what are the boundary conditions, initial conditions that we can apply over here, and we will also do one or two solved examples. So, with that, let us go back to the slide and continue where we had left off last time. So, one concept I wanted to introduce in the context of this one dimension heat conduction equation, and this is this concept of thermal diffusivity, which is given on the right hand side over here. So, it is represented by the symbol alpha and the units for this is meter square per second. So, let us look how this thermal diffusivity parameter appear in this 1D heat conduction equation. So, let us divide the whole equation by k, and what we will get is del square T divided by del x square plus E dot gen divided by k, and now what we will see on the right hand side is this ratio rho C by k, which we see over here. Cp and C are by the way same. So, I am sometimes using the symbol C, sometimes Cp, both are same, both are for specific heat. So, we can see what is appearing over here is essentially 1 by alpha. So, I will write the complete equation del T by del T, and which I can write like this. So, this is another way in which we can represent the 1D heat conduction equation, and over here alpha makes an appearance, which is the thermal diffusivity term. It is given as the ratio of K, which is thermal conductivity, divided by rho density, and C specific heat. So, there is a very good significance of thermal diffusivity. It is also considered as the ratio of the heat conduction divided by the heat storage. In other words, a material, let us say a hypothetic material which has very low specific heat. So, the denominator is Cp, which is having very low value, and in the numerator K value is very high. So, it is a very good conductor. So, the amount of heat it will store is very less, and the amount of heat that it will transport is very high. So, for that particular material we can clearly say that the thermal diffusivity value is very high. So, let us look at certain materials which are typically around us in nature and try and see what are their alpha values or thermal diffusivity values. So, some very high value is obtained for silver, which is 149 into 10 power minus 6, and iron is much lower, it is 23 into 10 power minus 6. Then we go down, we look at common brick, and then we can also look at some liquid like water. So, brick has very low thermal diffusivity and water has even lower thermal diffusivity. So, if we compare the highest and lowest values of thermal diffusivity in this particular table, so if I compare silver to water, so both are given the same amount of heat. So, what will happen to that heat? Silver will tend to transfer most of the heat across it, and while water would tend to retain most of the heat. So, it will absorb that heat because water has very high specific heat. Silver has very high thermal conductivity and very low specific heat. So, this is the physical explanation of thermal diffusivity. I will take a moment, just 1 or 2 minutes, to show one beautiful thing which is observed in nature, and let me first write equations and units for those, and then I will explain. So, there is another symbol which is given as nu, and I think many thermal engineers will immediately recognize that this is the kinematic viscosity, and if you recall, the units for that was, so it is a coincidence the units are same, meter squares per second, and in the last chapter of this particular course we will figure out something called dB, which is the mass diffusivity, and here look at the units. So, all three of these diffusivities are actually having the same units. So, I will just write it for the sake of completion over here. So, this nu is kinematic viscosity, and this one is the so if we look at all these three symbols, on the top we have alpha, then we have nu, and then we have DAB, and all three have the same units, meter square per second, meter square per second, meter per second. So, essentially they are all representing some sort of diffusion which is taking place. In the first case, our thermal diffusivity is showing the diffusion of heat. So, in a particular body, if I give heat only at a particular point, then how does it diffuse spatially? In another case, the kinematic viscosity is showing how will the momentum actually diffuse. So, if there is a pot of water and then certain momentum is given to only one portion, then because of viscous effects that momentum will diffuse and the whole pot of water may have some sort of velocity distribution, and then that is the diffusion of momentum. In the third case, we will have the diffusion of species. In case of this particular room, if I spray some room freshener on one side of the room, then that species, those fragrant molecules will not remain in that side, they will actually automatically diffuse and spread across the room. So, this is something that we will study in the later on lectures of this particular course, and it so happens in nature all the equations turn out to be very, very similar. So, whether it is the mass diffusivity, whether it is heat diffusivity, or it is the momentum diffusivity, all are similar. So, if we study one, then we have very good knowledge of the remaining two. So, this is the significance of this particular concept of thermal diffusivity, and in our immediate need we can also have the significance that we can replace the ratio K divided by rho Cp with alpha in our one dimension heat conduction equation. Moving on to the next slide, now let us try and see a few cases of boundary conditions. So, if you remember, we have talked about boundary conditions before, and why is boundary condition important? Because whenever we want to solve some sort of an equation, whether it is ODE or PD, in this particular case we are solving the heat conduction equation. Let us say this form is over here. If it is a second order differential equation, then we need two boundary conditions, because when you are solving this particular equation, we will be faced with two constants C1 and C2. So, we have to somehow solve for these constants, otherwise we will just have a general equation, we will not be able to achieve the specific result. So, those are termed as the boundary conditions. So, we will look at several boundary conditions in this set of examples. The most useful boundary condition is the convective boundary condition. And I will explain in a little while that why is it kind of the most useful, because once we study it, then it automatically gives 2 or 3 more boundary conditions just by changing its own values. So, what we mean by convective boundary condition, let me draw a sketch over here. Let me say this is my wall, and I will draw the middle point over here. This is the mid plane. So, till now whenever we wanted to solve this particular problem, if you remember for last 2 or 3 lectures, I always pick 2 points over here on the extreme, and I called this as T1 and I called this as T2, and I assumed that these values were known. So, I typically pick 40 degrees on this side and then 20 degrees on this side, just for illustration purposes, which means now we will go into the physics behind it, that how is the wall on the left hand side actually having a higher temperature compared to the wall on the right hand side. So, if I am assuming that 40 degrees the temperature here and 20 degrees the temperature here, now we will have to figure out that this is the fluid which is surrounding it on the left side. So, perhaps this fluid itself is pretty hot, and that is what is actually giving the heat to this particular wall. The same example we can give on the right hand side is that particular wall is surrounded by some fluid over here, and if this fluid itself is cold, it is taking away the heat from this particular side of the wall, which means if the solid wall and fluid interaction is taking place. So, we remember from lecture number 1, then we have to look in the convective heat transfer mode, and the same thing we have to look over here. We may also ask a question that how is this fluid on the left side at higher temperature, how is this fluid on the lower temperature, which means we can assume, or in real life we can see certain cases, if let us say combustion is taking place on this particular side over here, then automatically lot of heat is being generated. If this is a furnace or it is the electric oven, so we can assume that the air here would be having a very high temperature. Let us say on this side we have some sort of air conditioning, or we have water cooled channels over here, which is actually cooling this air down. So, while we are looking at this particular set of examples, we will not be bothered with how that air is cold here and hot here. We will just assume that we have hot air on one side and cold air on another side. With that explanation, let us go back over here to the slide, and I will write what I have just discussed on the slide over here, that I am assuming that on the left side. So, let me formally define this as the left. This is my left side and this is my right side. So, I have told that on the left side I am assuming that we have hot air, on the right hand side I am assuming we have cold air, which means this hot air and cold air must have some properties. So, let me go ahead and write that down. So, over here I am going to write on the left side my air temperature is T infinity left, and on the right side my air temperature is T infinity right. And I will explain in a little while why am I using this symbol infinity. Moreover, because convective heat transfer will be taking place from the air to the first molecule of the wall, which means this sort of a convective heat transfer will be taking place. So, I will write this as Q convection, and again I will put a subscript left over here, and again on the right hand side this air has certain temperature. So, from the wall to the air over here some convection will be taking place, and I will write that as Q convection. Because it is taking place on the right hand side, I will put a subscript R. If you go back on the left side, because convection is taking place, I must have a convective heat transfer coefficient value, which is given as HL. And similarly, on the right hand side, on the cold air side, I must have another value of heat transfer coefficient, which I will write as HR. And let me write the equations for convective heat transfer coefficient on the left side. If I ask you, do you recall from our lecture number 1, we had written one convection equation. So, that was simply very simple to remember, H A delta T. So, in this particular case on the left side, H will be replaced by H L. A is the cross sectional area, and what is delta T over here, because T infinity L is at a higher temperature over here, and I will subtract it from T1. So, this is my convective heat transfer Q dot convection L on the left side. On the right hand side, I have Q dot convection right, which is on the right hand side HR A, and over here, because I already know the wall is slightly at a higher temperature than the T infinity R, I will subtract it in this way. So, later on I will explain that in convection why do we subtract one from another one time and then from the wall to the air sometime. So, just bear with me for a few minutes over here. So, with the help of these two equations, now we can clearly see that certain convection boundary conditions we can clearly apply on the left side of the wall as well as on the right side of the wall. Just for the sake of completion, let me go back inside the wall and draw this temperature profile over here. Because this is steady state and I am assuming no heat generation, so this is the simple type of temperature profile that we will get. And if you remember, we have taken earlier certain conditions over here. So, we have assumed this particular thickness of the wall is L. So, I will just put some typical numbers over here which I have considered earlier. So, length I have taken as 1 meter, the cross sectional area I have taken as 1 meter square, thermal conductivity I have also taken as 1 in the units watts per meter Kelvin, and it turned out that this Q dot conduction value has turned out to be T1 minus T2, which is 20 degree, multiplied by K multiplied by A divided by L. So, the overall equation turned out to be value was simply 20 watts. And why did I put a plus sign over here? Because earlier we have defined that the x axis starts over here. So, from here we have taken x value, oops, it is not allowing me to draw there. So, I will draw it over here. So, this is my x axis, it is the positive direction of the x axis. So, my conduction heat transfer whatever is taking place, I have a positive value over here. I hope everything is clear so far. So, our aim, let me recall what we are trying to do is we are trying to figure out what are the different type of boundary conditions that we can apply, and we are looking at the first case, which is the convective boundary condition. So, in that one we are assuming that air is present on both sides of the wall, and we have figured out certain properties of air, which is T infinity L on the left side, H L again on the left side, and on the right hand side we have T infinity R and H R. Now, let me go ahead and try and write the conduction equation at this particular interface. What will happen over here, and then we will do the same thing on the right hand side, and these will give me two boundary conditions. So, essentially my boundary condition number 1 will be over here, which is this particular point, and boundary condition number 2 will be over here at this particular plane. It need not be at a point, it can be at the whole plane over here. So, BC1 is here and boundary condition 2 is over here. So, let us first start with the left side convection, and for that one good thing we have done is we have already written the expression for that over here. So, on the left side the convection value we have already written over there. What will it be equal to if I ask that question? So, again you recall some fundamental laws of nature, that conservation of mass, momentum and energy. So, we can see if we do the energy balance on this particular interface on the plane wall boundary on the left hand side, if I do the energy balance. So, if I show that wall over here, so this is my left side, so this is the wall and this is the air. So, whatever convection is taking place over here, convection on the left side has to be equal to the conduction which is taking place over here. Is it true only for steady state or is it true for transient as well? So, just at the interface it is actually true for both. So, because it is a very thin layer, we are talking at just one layer of the last part of the wall. So, even if it is transient case, even if it is steady state, this thing always holds true, which means I can now write this thing in the equation form. What I have written over here is the convection on the left side is equal to the conduction, and this conduction I am writing at x equals to 0. Because remember that when the transient analysis is being taken place, then the temperature profile, or let us say heat generation, is being taken place. Temperature profile may not be linear. What it means is then the slope of the temperature may actually change. In this particular example, it is the linear, so I can take it at any given point, but later on it may not be linear, which means I have to mathematically define that this equality of convection and conduction is only always true at the boundary. It may be true for other cases also, but always for what condition it is true, it is only at the boundary, which means the left hand side I have already defined on the top of this particular screen over here. What is my right hand side? This I can write very easily as minus K A del T del x at x equals to 0. Okay. So, let me go ahead and solve it for this particular case, where I have also going to assume some numerical values. So, if I go back and quickly write those numerical values that I am going to assume over here, just for simplicity I have taken HL value equals to 2 watts per meter square Kelvin. Okay. And HR value I am taking as over here 4 watts per meter square Kelvin. And what I want to do is, I want to do a reverse condition over here. I want to figure out what is the value of T infinity L, which will allow me to have a T1 value on the wall as 40 degree. And on the right hand side, I want to figure out what is the value of T infinity R, which will allow me to have a T2 value of 20 degree over here. And both these answers I will get by doing this particular solution. If I solve this particular energy balance, then I will be able to get T infinity L and T infinity R. So, on next slide, let me go ahead and do that. So, convection on the left side we have already written is HL area T infinity L minus T1. T1 was the wall temperature on the left side, and this I am equating equal to Q dot conduction, which I have written is minus K A dt dx at x equals to 0. In our example on the previous case, this conduction was taking place without any heat generation. So, it is a linear slope. So, we can directly go ahead and write. It turns out to be a very simple expression, that it is simply T1 minus T2 divided by L. So, this is the equation that we are going to solve, and what we are going to solve it for, the unknown over here, we are trying to figure out in reverse direction that what is the value of the air temperature which will give me the desired T1 temperature. So, for this, if I am solving for T infinity L, I can go ahead and do some substitutions. So, T infinity L, because this is a very simple equation, A we can see will get cancelled out on both sides, HL will go in the denominator. So, let me go ahead and do that. So, what we end up getting is HL will go in the denominator over here, we will have HL multiplied by capital L, and this T1 will go on the right hand side over here. So, I had all these values written down on the previous slide. So, from memory I am going to write them again. So, K value we have taken as 1, T1 was 40 degrees, T2 we have taken as 40 degrees. If you remember, HL we have taken as 2 watts per meter square Kelvin, and L value was 1, and again T1 was 40 degrees. So, if you do this arithmetic, what we end up getting over here is 10 plus 40, which means T infinity L was 50 degrees centigrade. I hope this particular point is clear. So, why I was using that word reverse? I will that explain over here, that in real life situation we will not be actually knowing the value of T1 beforehand. we will be knowing instead the value of T infinity L. So, the question that will be given to us or will posed to us is that the air on the left side of the wall is having very high temperature, in this particular case 50 degrees, and then we will given the other air temperature on the right hand side, and then we have to figure out what is the overall heat transfer which is taking place, what is the temperature profile, what is the temperature of the wall on the left side, temperature of the wall on the right side. So, as we have done for the left side, very quickly we can do similar calculation for the right hand side. So, let me go ahead and do that. So, on the right hand side I can write the same thing again, convection on the right is equals to Q dot conduction, and this time it is at x equals to L, because the length of my wall is L. And I will do that thing little bit fast this time, because it is just a repeat of the previous. So, this is the convection term, and what is the conduction term? In fact, that is the same as this conduction term, because we are assuming the steady state right now and then we are over here. So, it just turns out to be K A T1 minus T2 divided by L. So, here again, because we are doing it in reverse, we want to figure out what value of the right air temperature will give me the desired T2 temperature. So, this solution we can write simply as this. So, I have written down that solution over here. So, T infinity R, we just do some, again A will be cancelled over here, we do some substitutions and move some terms around, and what we end up getting is HRL, and we can plug in those numbers very quickly. This was 20, this is 40 minus 20, HR value, if you go back over here, HR value we have taken slightly different from the H left value, we have taken it as 4 into 1. So, you can see it will turn out to be 20, this thing will perhaps be 5, so we get 15 degrees, which means I can write T infinity R is 15 degrees. So, these are two values which ordinarily we would have been given in the start of the problem, but we have done it in the reverse way. We have figured out that if this is the conduction which is taking place inside the brick wall, then what is the hot air temperature and what is the cold air temperature over there. Now, that brings me to a very interesting thing. I do not have space on this particular slide. So, these two numbers we will just memorize, that this is 50 degree and 15 degree just for 1 minute, because I want to show it graphically that how will it actually look like. So, in this particular case we have shown over here, let me draw some numbers. This is 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 over here, 40 degree, 50 degree. So, we have 20 degree over here. So, inside the wall we know that it is a straight line over here. Now, I will explain why we are using the term T infinity L and T infinity R. Infinity is something which is considered as a very large distance, very large number. Why am I using as a subscript for temperature? So, what essentially happens is, if we look at it, the physics behind it, what number we have calculated for this turned out to be 50 degree and this number turned out to be 15 degree, which means if I want to graphically represent that in the same plot over here, this 50 degree is this value, right, and 15 degree is something between 20 and 10. So, 15 is this one. So, I will draw this line over here. Now, because we are assuming that the air which is very far away from this wall, in reality it is not, this distance is not infinity, in reality it is not infinity, but this is the notation that engineers use. So, they say that it is very far away, it is so far away that its temperature profile actually becomes like a flat line. So, this flat line is at 15 degrees over here, but the first point of the brick wall over here is at 20 degree. So, how will it go like? How we will connect it? Can it go like this? Can it go like this? Or can it go like this? So, there is a answer for this particular thing, but that formal answer I will not give over here, I will just give the final result. So, in the convection chapters, we will actually figure out that why is the profile like this. So, we can actually even show, very interesting, that if I extend this line over here, and the same thing I will do over there as well. So, what does this slope tell me? You remember, slope is simply dt by dx. Now, at this particular point and this particular point, if I want to see, this is brick or this is solid, over here we have air. So, at this particular point, the amount of heat which is going is proportional to k del T by del x, and this k is of the solid and del T by del x is also of solid at point A. At point B, this is of air, k air and del T by del x of air as well. So, just see, I am also assuming that conduction is taking place through air. So, just for few minutes, just bear with that, do not get confused for a little while. I am just doing a comparison of the magnitude analysis. So, let me go over here, pick another color. So, if I ask the audience a question, which is larger, Ks or Ka? So, I think everyone will answer very easily that brick has very large thermal conductivity compared to air, if not very large, little bit larger, or let us say it is a high conducting metal. So, in that case we can say if the Ks is greater than Ka, then both of these have to be equal, which means the del T del x of A has to be much larger than del T del x of the solid. And a larger slope means what? So, this line, green line cannot continue like this, it has to start at a larger slope, sorry. So, which has larger slope, this one or that one? So, yeah, so this one is having larger slope, so we will go and draw it like this. Now, we will take this larger slope and then connect it with this blue line over here. So, I will just say from T infinity temperature is coming like this. So, in convection it goes very rapidly like this. The same thing we will do on the left hand side, do not get confused, I will do it slowly. So, here the slope I will not take as the green one over here, you can see my red dot, but I will increase this slope. Can you see this? And then till what point I will increase? Say till this 50 degree is coming from infinity, and then suddenly it will join over here and then smoothly it will go over there. Now, let me go and see if I can erase this green line. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Now, what we have over here is the complete temperature profile from the infinity in left side to the infinity in right side. So, always remember, in real life engineers are not talking about real infinities. This is infinity means large distance. So, we are just symbolically representing it for large distance. So, let us say if this length is 1 meter. So, this infinity would mean if we are 5 times or 10 times that distance on both sides over here, which means that this convection which is taking place of air over here and convection of air. So, you remember this was the cold air on this side and the hot air on this side. So, heat transfer is taking place in this direction over here. So, I am showing it with the red arrow over here, then it is going through conduction, single arrow, this is conduction, this is convection, and then again convection over here. So, this is essentially our discussion was linked to the convective boundary condition, but I have also wanted to give some additional information, that is why I spent little bit more time over here. I hope this will be beneficial to students, especially this analysis on this side as well as on this side. Although I will caution you, these details we will look at when we are in the convection lectures. So, with this we have finished the convective boundary condition case. Let me go back and very quickly say one thing, that this convective boundary condition can itself split into 3 cases very easily, and that depends on the value of H. So, I will just quickly write over here that if I make H some normal number like a finite number 5, 10 or 20, then it remains a convective boundary condition. What happens if I make H equals to 0? We will learn later on, it will become the adiabatic boundary condition. because no heat is actually transferring from the hot wall from the air to the wall. So, it is acting like an insulator. If I make H very large, let us say 1 lakh or 2 lakh or very high number, then it will turn out to be the constant temperature boundary condition. And I can show that with the graph, all these three things over here, that essentially when we have very high value of H, then this gap will start reducing over here. So, the fluid will actually behave at the same temperature as the wall. Both will have very close temperature to one another because H value is very high. So, with that analysis, let me look at one more case. So, second case I will consider is the radiative boundary condition. So, what do you mean by radiative boundary condition? I will take the same wall over here. I am going to assume steady state conduction is taking place, but instead of having hot air on this side, on the left side, I am going to assume that there is some wall over here at far distance, which is at some wall temperature TWL, L for the left, and this is at such a high temperature, it is actually participating radiatively. It is giving out these radiations, which is actually heating the left side of my wall. So, this surface is being heated by this. Then similarly, on the right hand side, I have another wall over here, and its temperature is T wall R, and this is the one which is absorbing the radiation coming out of the right hand side of the wall, which means if I put this number as T1 over here and this number as T2, if this is the direction in which heat transfer is taking place, it is going from left to right, then again left to right, and then again left to right over here, then I can say that TWL is greater than T1, which is greater than T2, which is greater than TWR. So, heat is going from a higher temperature to slightly lower temperature, then through the brick wall, again lower temperature, then through the exterior wall at some far distance, which is absorbing all the heat. How can I justify this radiative boundary condition? Under what condition there is no convection and only radiation? If we have vacuum. So, instead of air flowing on the left hand side, there is no air, it is just vacuum. Again on the right hand side, there is no air, it is vacuum, which means there cannot be any conduction over here, no conduction and no convection, and over here also there cannot be any conduction and convection because they cannot take place through vacuum. So, I want to figure out what will be the boundary condition on the left side and the boundary condition on the right hand side. So, let me go ahead and write the boundary condition on the left side. So, boundary condition on the left side will be, it will be simply this radiation heat transfer which is taking place, and that will be equal to the conduction heat transfer taking place at x equals to 0, because I am defining x from here. So, this point is x equals to 0, this is x equals to L. Now, what is this particular expression for radiation? So, again if you remember from our lecture number 1, we have written a very simple relationship for Q dot radiation. We are keeping it simple for right now, and later on when we move on to the chapters for radiative heat transfer, then we will look at the complicated relations as well. So, it is simply the Stephen-Boltzmann law which correlates it with the difference of T to the power 4, and I can put some numbers over here as well, because remember we are doing it in reverse. I am going to assume some values of 40 and 20 degree over here, and our objective is to figure out what temperature of the left wall, left surface over here should be in order that the wall temperature is 40 degree over here, and then again over here again I will try to figure out what is the temperature of the right hand side surface, so that the right face of our wall is having 20 degree centigrade. So, this is the Q dot radiation over here. Can I also write the term for Q dot conduction? Maybe I will write it over here. So, what is Q dot conduction at x equals to 0? It is simply K A dt dx at x equals to 0. In this case, we are knowing that it is a linear slope. So, it simply turns out to be Ka T1 minus T2 divided by L. Now, I will just use a word of caution, and with example I will show why I am being cautious. So, let us go back to the wall, and instead of 40 degree centigrade, I want to write it 273 plus 40, and this will come out to be 313 in Kelvin. So, whether I use centigrade or Kelvin, in conduction it does not really matter, but in radiation it is very important that we always use Kelvin itself, because Kelvin we have to take T to the power 4. So, if we do not do that, then it will be very difficult. So, always remember that whenever radiative heat transfer is there, then we have to add 273 to convert it into Kelvin. So, this instead of 20 degree, I will now write 293 Kelvin. All I need to do is equate these two numbers over here, these equations. And what is the unknown in this equation? There is only one unknown over here, because A will get cancelled, A will be cancelled with A. This is a constant whose value I know. This is 5.67 into 10 power minus 8 watts per meter square per Kelvin to the power 4. And for simplicity, we are assuming all the emissivities involved in this particular example is 1, just for simplicity over here. So, by solving this particular equation, we get the relationship for T W left to the power 4. It turns out to be equal to, I will just do this algebra over here. We just have to substitute and transfer the terms, and it turns out to be very beautiful expression, which is T1 to the power 4 plus K T1 minus T2 divided by sigma L. And these values I can plug in over here. The only thing I will remember is I have to use only Kelvin over here. So, this I will not say this is 42 power 4, I will say it is 313 to the power 4, K value I am taking 1. So, this difference I will again calculate in Kelvin. So, this is 313 minus 293, sigma value is very small, 5.67 into 10 power minus 8 multiplied by length value is 1. So, because this is very tedious calculation, I need a calculator in order to solve that. So, this one I have already done the calculation before. So, I will just write this expression over here. So, the first term turns out to be 96 into 10 power 8. The second term turns out to be over here, it is 3.5 into 10 power 8. We add them together, so we get something like 99.5 into 10 power 8, and this is my TWL to the power 4. So, we take square root 2 times in order to get the temperature over here. So, what we get is 316 Kelvin, and I convert it back into degree centigrade. What value do I get? 43 degrees centigrade. So, I can go back over here and maybe write in different color, blue, red color over here, that this value we have finally calculated turns out to be 43 degrees centigrade, and we were correct to assume that this value has got to be higher than the wall left side temperature. Only then the heat is, net heat is actually flowing in this direction. So, 43 is transferring heat to 40 degree, from 40 degree it is going to 20 degree, and similarly we can calculate the temperature for the right hand side. So, this exercise I will leave for the audience members, so they can go ahead and do that calculation. Now, let me look at briefly one more boundary condition, which is actually very straightforward and simple. This one is known as the interface boundary condition. So, just to recap, this is the third boundary condition that we are looking at today. The first boundary condition was convective, in which we were assuming that air was flowing on both sides of the brick wall. Then we have looked at radiative boundary condition. Now, let us look at interface boundary. What does the interface boundary condition mean? If this is my brick wall, and I know that something like this temperature profile is going to be, I do not know the exact values, I know its length. Now, what will happen if there is no convection or radiation from the left side, but actually heat is coming from another material which is placed over here? It could be second wall, it could be some metallic material or wood or something else. So, if I give this example, if you go back to camera, what we will see is that if this is my wall over here, earlier on we were assuming that air is on the left hand side. So, air is giving it heat. Now, we are going to assume that there is some other material which is actually placed in contact with it. So, you can see the contrast of color. Here there is the white wall and then the black wall is put in contact with it. So, what will happen if the material on the white wall and the black wall are actually different? That is known as the interface boundary condition, because interface is defined as this particular point. This line is known as the interface between these two particular material. Let me draw it in different color. So, this red line over here is the interface. So, what boundary condition can I put for interface? So, again energy conservation always is true. So, whatever is q dot coming over here has to be equal to this q dot over here. So, if I call it q dot A, that is equal to q dot B. Okay. So, this is wall A, this is wall B. Its thermal conductivity is Ka, here the thermal conductivity is Kb. So, how do I equate q dot A equals to q dot B? And again I will draw the x axis over here. So, one caution I will put is that this is only for interface, which means that this is true only for x equals to 0 and x equals to 0. Why am I making this cautious statement? Please listen this part carefully. It is not always true that q dot A throughout the first wall is equal to q dot B throughout the second wall. I will give an example. If let us say heat generation is taking place in some portions of the wall, right, which means q dot B may actually be something like this over here. The temperature profile, sorry, not q dot B, the temperature profile may be something like this, and over here the temperature profile might be different. Which means that q dot is not throughout same over here and here, but always nature tells us that at the interface it has to be the same. And how do I make sure I am communicating to everyone that it is interface? I am putting the value of x, that both these things are true only when x equals to 0, because x equals to 0 is the interface between these two walls. I hope you will be able to get the point nicely, which means now I can write what is q dot A. It is simply minus K A del T del x at x equals to 0. This is the left hand side of this equation over here, right? What will be the right hand side? That will be this part, q dot B. So, I will just write this is equal to K B, area is same, del T del x at x equals to 0. Now, this is very powerful equation. Why? Because it helps us understand, helps us explain to us that no matter how, if you look in this particular example at the bottom, no matter how complicated these curves can be, because nature can in certain cases give us very complicated thing, but engineer will only focus for interface case on this particular part, and that is very simple over here. So, this is the beauty of the interface boundary condition. It tells us that the interface, whatever heat conduction, convection or radiation is coming from the left side is equal to the conduction which is taking place on the right hand side. Okay, we have some time remaining. We will try and do one or two solved example. Let us go ahead and do that. So, the solved example that I have picked over here is from the case of one dimension heat conduction, which we have been studying for last two lectures. Now, let us go ahead and do very interesting solved example. So, this solved example is for heat generation within a wire. So, this is electrical wire. So, I will draw the zoom in version of the electrical wire. So, in real life it is very thin, but it is cylindrical in shape. So, I will draw the center line as well, and I know the radius of this particular wire is R naught. So, this is a conducting wire. So, some current is flowing through it. Let that current be R. I will complete the dimensions of this particular wire. So, the radius I already know is R naught. The length also is known to me is L, which means I know the whole geometry of this particular wire. I also know the resistance of this wire. So, this is the electrical resistance that I am talking about. So, what is the question? The question is, if this wire is present in this particular room, let me say that this pen represents that particular wire, I am flowing current through this. If the current is significantly high, it is going to generate significant amount of heat inside it, and that, because I square R losses will be there, Joule heating will take place. So, all that heat will dissipate inside towards the air which is surrounding it, which means if we zoom in inside the wire, we will see some sort of a temperature profile developing inside it. So, let me go back to the slide and try to draw that temperature profile. So, I will draw this wire in the vertical direction now. So, it is the same wire I am drawing in 2 dimension, but instead of showing it horizontal, I am now showing it vertical, because heat generation will take place inside over here. How will the temperature distribution look like? So, it may look like something like this. Remember, this is not a plane wall I am drawing, this is a cross section of the cylinder that I am drawing, which means that the temperature will peak at the middle. Because it is a cylinder, it is symmetrical on both sides of the radius. Over here, we will have the same temperatures over here. So, this is surface temperature Ts over here and surface temperature Ts, and because we have looked at the convection part earlier boundary condition, we will say that the convection is taking place over here. So, I will put so this represents the radial direction R, and on both sides or on all sides of this particular wire, it is surrounded by air which is at T infinity. Because this is not a wall, there is no left or right side. If you look at this particular pen, it is a radial object. So, air is surrounding it from all sides. That is what we have shown over here. Heat transfer coefficient I am assuming as convective heat transfer coefficient is H. So, now we are able to understand that yes, some heat generation is taking place inside over here. Temperature will definitely rise, it will be the maximum at the middle point. So, that is shown as T peak. What we want to figure out is what is the mathematical shape of this particular temperature profile. In other words, I simply want to find out how does temperature change with radius. Because even without solving any equation, I can just by picturizing it, I can figure out that the temperature will be maximum in the middle, it will be same on both sides, on all the circumferential sides it will be same, and it will be less than that of the middle. So, that gives me a qualitative picture, but I want to be more quantitative. I want to find the exact values. For that, I have to use mathematical tools. So, what mathematical tool is available to me? Now, the importance of 1D heat conduction equation, it becomes absolutely clear. So, let me go ahead and write that equation which we have already studied in last lecture. So, this I am writing in cylindrical form. So, this is not for the plane case, but this is for the cylindrical case. So, one of the most important thing which engineer job actually requires is simplifying complicated things, because numerical solution computer can give, automated things computer can give, but computer is not able to make judgment type decisions. So, the judgment that an engineer has to make over by looking at this equation is what are the terms that I can neglect, or what are terms that I can cancel in this equation in order to make it more simplified. So, if I ask the audience members, what do they think? Is there a term that I can drop from over here? So, how does this term on the right hand side look? So, if we are running current through this particular wire for very long amount of time, and it has been in this room for a long time, room temperature is also steady, then under those conditions I can assume that temperature may be changing with radius, but at any point the temperature is not changing with time, which means immediately I can say that because it is the steady state, this transient term becomes equals to 0. Good, that has solved, simplified our equation a lot. What about this second term? Can I make E dot gen equals to 0? I don't think that we can make that, because lot of heat is being generated inside this particular wire. If the current is high, then this I square R electrical, this is the actual power which is being generated over here. In other terms, this is what we are generating, we were calling capital E dot gen. And how is this capital E dot gen correlated with this small e dot gen? So, again this question I am asking because we did it in last class. So, this is simply related by, this is divided by volume. So, let me go ahead and write those expressions down over here. So, for this particular cylinder, what is the volume of this whole cylinder? We can write it is simply pi r naught square L, and we will be using the area term because it is going to actually lose heat from all sides. So, this is the graphical representation of the heat loss it is going to take place. That thing we are showing over here in 2D as well. So, this is the convective heat loss which is taking place, and this convective heat loss essentially will be, this convective heat loss will be H, which we have defined over here, A T of the surface minus T infinity. So, we will have to figure out the value of A as well. So, this is the circumferential area, surface area A, and this turns out to be 2 pi r naught L. So, these values we will be using very much in this equation. Now, let us go and see how do we solve this particular PDE and what are the boundary conditions that we have to apply. Let us go ahead and do that. So, we will have to integrate this equation twice because there are two differential, it is a double differential over here. So, if I integrate it one time, what do I get? So, I will write this equation over here. So, we have del by del r K r del T by del r, and on the right hand side we have minus E dot gen into r, and what I will do is, for simplicity I am going to assume that this k is actually constant. So, this k I will drop from here, I can take it out and I have actually put it over here. I hope this part is clear to everyone. Now, if I integrate this equation once, what I will get is something like this. So, we have r dt by dr equals to, what will happen on the right hand side? We will have E dot gen, it becomes r square by 2k plus I have a constant over here C1. Then if I integrate it one more time, what will I get? So, I will get T r is equals to minus E dot gen r square by 4k plus C1 ln r plus C2, which means I am looking at two constants over here for which I want to figure out two boundary conditions. So, I am little bit short on time. So, I will do it little, I will skip one or two steps and I will just lay out that this C1, it turns out that this value has to be equals to 0, and the explanation for that is, otherwise log of r at r equals to 0 is actually not defined. And what is the other boundary condition that we will put over here? So, we will say that del T by del r at r equals to 0 is 0. What does it actually mean? What it means is that the slope at this particular point is actually it is a horizontal line over here, and horizontal line has a slope of 0, right. And what is the second boundary condition that I can put over here? And the second boundary condition is, again at the interface, the conduction at r equals to r naught is equals to q dot convection from the surface. So, this conduction part I can write as minus K A del T by del r, r equals to r naught is equals to H A T S minus T infinity. So, by solving these two, by applying these two boundary conditions and by solving it, we will be able to figure out the value of C1 and C2, and eventually we will get something like this. So, I would encourage the audience members to do some of the missing steps in between and try and figure out whether they are able to obtain this final equation over here. And believe me, it is actually very simple and straightforward, because we are just solving some ordinary differential equation. So, we will have to just integrate it couple of times and apply boundary conditions. So, I am very confident you will be able to do yourself. That brings us to the summary of this particular lecture. So, in this lecture we actually started with the application of different type of boundary conditions. So, we look at the convective boundary condition, radiative boundary condition and the interface condition, and then later on we looked at one of the solved examples where we wanted to see that what happens if we are having the heat conduction in a cylindrical geometry and where heat generation is taking place. So, I believe we got some very interesting results today. So, in the next lecture we will continue from this moment forward, and we will learn one or two very interesting concepts like the electrical resistance network. So, we will try and see if convection, conduction and radiation can be understood in terms of electrical resistances, the current flows, etc. And we will like to also look at extended surfaces like fins and other type of extended surfaces which help us lose heat from a small body to the big atmosphere around it. Thank you very much.